Hello, great to be here. So today I'm going to talk about how we can unlock an entirely new economy to regenerate the Earth. So I'll cover the current state of our planet to give some context, and then I'll introduce the story of regeneration. What does regeneration actually mean? How is this paradigm different, and how is it going to save us? And then I'll introduce ReFi, the tools and the technology that is enabling this regenerative paradigm. And then I'll talk about ReFiDAO, which we're building a network state to regenerate the Earth. And we're doing this in key startup regions around the world. So to start with, a little bit about me. I'm a passionate environmentalist from the southwest of the UK, in the rural countryside. I come from a family of passionate environmentalists. My mum has worked in the sector for 35 years as a campaigner and consultant and written numerous books. And I'm taking on the mantle of the next generation and using the latest technologies, studying economics, studying philosophy, and bringing all of those together, we have the ReFi ecosystem. And so that's what I'm here to talk about today and how we're building regenerative communities with ReFiDAO. So our planet is currently dying. We have over 8 billion people on the Earth, and we are now seeing 75% of the land depleted. 90% of marine fish stocks fully exploited, and hundreds of millions of tons of plastic in our oceans and in our lands. We have 69% biodiversity loss in just 40 years. Scientists say we're entering the 6th mass extinction event on Earth caused by human activities. And no access to human drinking water, and this is going to get even worse. At the same time, atmospheric carbon levels are reaching a critical point. We are reaching irreversible tipping points that are going to have existential consequences if we don't act fast. Time is running out. Our time as a species is frankly running out. Our current systems, in the way that they are designed, are broken, fundamentally. Money is king above all else. We see all focus on GDP, gross domestic product. This is ignoring a full spectrum of human values, and the negative externalities are externalized. And this is leading to climate chaos and also social unrest and chaos. And things are only set to get much, much worse. So with that context in mind, I'd like to introduce a new story for how the future of civilization could unfold. And that story is about regeneration, the new paradigm. So to understand regeneration, we can look at what regeneration actually is. So we're currently stuck in a degenerative economic system, one that over time is going to lose resource capacity. It's extractive. We then have a sustainable system, which is sustaining the inhabitants of the Earth. But if you think about it, it's flat. Things aren't improving. We're not building capacity. Regenerative is actually about building an economy that's generating resources. It's getting better. It's improving its stock. And so we can look at this from a systems perspective. So we can see an extractive system is losing capacity over time. Sustainable is staying flat. But regenerative is building resource capacity. It's getting better and it's improving and it's resilient to shocks. So from a systemic level, this is what we need to build. But we need to build systems like this so that we can actually generate more than just financial capital. So we need to go beyond GDP as the sole metric we look at and include a more holistic set for how we measure wealth and how we measure value in our economy. We need to include social, environmental values at the layer of our economic level to incentivize this fundamentally so that it's not externalized, but an integral part of how our economies function. So how does this look like from a systems perspective? Again, we often talk about the environmental regenerative systems, right? So we need to regenerate our air, our water, the soil. We need biodiversity. We need carbon. This is environmental regeneration. But regeneration as a concept is also about social and economic systems as well. So in social systems, we need to have diversity. We need to improve equity between the global north and the global south. We need to restore individual and collective mental health. This is regenerative social systems. We also need regenerative economic systems that aren't so extractive. If wealth and power is being continually funneled to the top in huge centralized systems, this is not regenerative. We need systems that are actually creating communities and spreading value around these in a more distributed and decentralized way. And so how do we achieve this regenerative economy? Through ReFi is the way forward. So what is ReFi? Well, it's regenerative finance, And it's about creating financial, economic systems that are in line with the principles of sustainability and regeneration. And so the purpose of ReFi, in my view, is to actually create these regenerative systems, build new markets, carbon markets, biodiversity, social environmental systems, and then channel people and resources into those systems in order to create a diverse set of wealth across these diverse forms of capital, right? And so looking at this, some of the key building blocks we have. So first we have the principles of regenerative economics. And these has been developed by academics over a series of decades. And it's about how we create these economic systems to fundamentally incentivize and reward sustainable actions. And then we combine that with the tools of decentralized finance. So having smart and secure, transparent platforms with smart contracts that remove intermediaries, create peer-to-peer marketplaces, and automate these markets using software. We then have decentralized science as well, which provides open science and open data that provides the intelligence network that helps these regenerative systems actually work and have the robust methodologies behind them to ensure against greenwashing. And so what does this look like in practice? So on the first layer, we have the planet positive actions, and this can take a huge variety of forms. And here I've listed some as well. So we have things like forestry, planting trees, creating biodiversity, regenerative agriculture and practices that improve our soil and the way we produce food, marine protection, coral restoration, clean energy. We've heard a lot about renewable energy credits and solar, wind, and hydro and efficiency. At the same time, zero waste economies, circular economies, transparent supply chains. All of this is part of ReFi. And so the next layer, if I can get to it, is the MRV. So when we have these planet positive actions, we actually need to collect all of the data on that. We need to understand what's happening, verify what's happening with absolute trust. So we have a number of technologies that can do this. We have people on the ground taking photos and videos and registering things. We have smart sensors, smart meters, satellite imagery, drones, and then combining this with third-party assessments and regulation. And all of this then, we have all of this technology to do this, but it actually needs to all exist somewhere. And so all of that data on-chain. So we have the on-chain ecosystem that then allows us to aggregate all of these sources of data, create trust and create transparency in the MRV, and then crucially it allows us to make markets with it and utilize all of the amazing tools of Web3 so that we can create efficient automated markets, decentralized exchange, so we can create the financial markets and incentives for the planet positive actions. That's where this ecosystem needs to go. And so we've seen an explosion of projects emerging over the only past couple years. It's been incredible to see the growth of this community. We're tracking at ReFiDAO over 700 projects, and it's growing daily. We have the carbon projects, we have plastics that are doing recycling credits, Arcreen, who we've had here today, and many other amazing projects. And so now I'd love to talk about our project, ReFiDAO, to create a network state to regenerate the Earth that is rooted in local startup communities. So to start with some context, what is a network state? Well, for those of you familiar with Bolaji's work, it's a highly online global community with a capacity for collective action that crowdfunds territory, so actually acquiring land and territory all around the world, geographically dispersed, but connected online. And eventually, these communities may even gain diplomatic recognition from pre-existing states and become recognized global actors as new nations on the global stage. So this is the foundation of some of our ideas, and we're taking these concepts and forking them in key ways. And so why are we doing this? Well, because the climate emergency forces us to think in new ways. Our current structures are not working. Corporations, nation states, and citizen activism are currently gridlocked. They're not creating the progress we need to mitigate climate change fast enough. And at the same time, climate change is a symptom of a much deeper underlying crisis, nested in the very core of how our systems work. So maybe we need to create entirely new systems to actually fully unlock the scale and the speed that we need to do this. The Paris agreements showed how we could create huge international consensus around what we need to do, which is to get to net zero emissions or better by 2050. So this is a huge, huge challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity. Right? To reach these goals, we need to deploy trillions upon trillions of capital. Up to 2.7 trillion per year. That's probably an understatement. Hundreds of trillions by 2050. And actually, capital flows with the speed of trust. So how can we unlock all of this capital? The money is there. Well, we have now the tools to unlock that capital, to create trust in these systems. The most powerful technology of our time, public ledgers, artificial intelligence, open data, open science, physical device networks, IoT, remote sensing. All of this, we need to bring it all together to create trust in these new models so that we can unlock the capital to come to regenerate the Earth. So what are we doing at ReFiDAO? So we started as a founder community, gathering founders in this regenerative finance space and creating systems of support and launching new startups as an incubator. We have the ReFi podcast, which has now got over 50,000 downloads, spreading the story and creating culture for regeneration. We have an events network running events all over the globe, 30+ events and many more coming. And now we're bringing all of this together to build a network state to regenerate the Earth. And what does that look like? So we have our global online community, the ReFi community, all of the founders, the investors from all around the world. At the same time, we have local nodes, so bringing these communities to on-the-ground regions, in Lisbon, in Paris, in Bangalore, in India, in New York, all over the world, local communities with local founders, each with their own unique visions of regeneration, their own tokens, their own governance systems, but then connecting into the global ReFi ecosystem. So we'll be launching a passport as a census to manage membership in this network, and a ReFi token that acts as a global reserve currency that's backed by nature and other real-world assets. So an entirely new stack for building an entirely new nation based on the principles of regeneration. And ultimately, we aim to get diplomatic recognition at COP30 and even sooner to actually have a seat at the table. Our ambition is not to work against current nations or draw new borders, but instead work with nations and policymakers and governments, institutions, investors, founders, bringing all of those actors together to really accelerate the regenerative economy and make it happen. So these are an example of some of the startup communities we have thriving around the world that are just getting started, really. And some amazing communities in Bogota, Rio, Lisbon, Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin, Bangalore, and hopefully here in Hong Kong. And so behind this network, we have our AI-powered knowledge graph. And this is what I've been working on specifically. So the knowledge graph is a connection of the people, projects. So the knowledge graph is the digital brains of this ecosystem. So we're mapping the people, the projects, the events, the content, the impact, the financial deal flow, and creating a data system that maps all of that and means anyone can unlock insights into the regenerative economy and discover what projects are happening in your local community, what sectors are being impacted, and really weave the digital brains of this ecosystem. At the core of this, I've mentioned, are these startup cities. And so hosting monthly events and co-working spaces, raising a treasury and acquiring land and real-world assets. This is the core of what we aim to do in cities all around the world, including, hopefully, here in Hong Kong. So I want to ask the audience now, what would you do in this room right now if we had $10 million to regenerate Hong Kong and the surrounding land? What connections would you make? What assets would you acquire? How would you go about creating a regenerative economy here in Hong Kong? So I want to invite everyone to our annual meeting in Lisbon, where we've got the most developed community. And we're bringing everyone together to create the Davos of ReFi and launch this network state fully. So we invite everyone in this room to come, and we can see if we can make this regenerative community really global and have huge impact to regenerate the future. Thank you.